Welcome to Ship Garden Club. It's so nice to see you. I'm so glad that you're here to grow vegetables with me. It's fall, and so we're going to be doing some indoor gardening, and all we really need is a sunny windowsill, and then we can grow some of our own vegetables. And since half of our My Plate is fruits and vegetables, what better way to get vegetables onto our plate than to grow them ourselves? I'm Miss Callan, the Ship Culinary and Garden Educator, and I love gardening and farming, so let's get started. When we plant vegetables, we plant little seeds in the soil, but with garlic, we plant a clove, which is part of this head. It's kind of like planting tulips or daffodils, where you plant the whole bulb. So when you pick up your garlic head, you can see it has roots on one side, and then the top is kind of pointy. So this whole head grows under the soil. And outside, if we had lots of time, in the fall we would plant a clove of garlic, and then we would let it grow over the whole winter. And in the spring it would come up, and then it would grow for another 3 or 4 months, and then finally it would make this head. But we're going to be growing garlic inside, and we're just going to be growing a little shoot, kind of like a little garlic green onion, so that we can taste it. To grow garlic outside, to tell it to grow a big head like this, it needs to experience a cold winter. So inside our house, it's not going to have a cold winter. It's not going to make this big head, but it is going to make a nice green shoot that we can taste. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is crack our garlic head open. Some of them are really easy and some of them are really hard. So what you can do is you can wiggle this top part. And on the garlic, this is where we had a big green stem coming out of the ground, but then that has died back, and now we have this nice head. You can kind of crack that, you can kind of wiggle the head around. Mine is really tough. And then you can kind of get your finger in the top there and pull out a clove. Now we want to leave most of the papery covering on there because that's going to protect the clove from rotting in the soil. It's like a little protection. So we're going to pull out some of our cloves, and this is organic garlic. This is important because you can go to the store and buy garlic and plant it too, but it's much better to buy organic garlic because the other garlic is sprayed sometimes to prevent it from sprouting so it can last a really long time in the store, and this garlic is not sprayed, so it's not prevented from sprouting. So if you want to do this again, you can try to get some organic garlic, or just try whatever garlic you find and see how it works. We're breaking apart our cloves. Notice which part comes from the root side of the head. So you've got a root side, and then you have a pointy side. So you're going to be planting it in that direction. So let's see how many cloves you get. This is a soft neck variety of garlic, so it has lots of cloves. I have about 13 cloves here. How many do you have? So the next step is we're going to fill our pot with some soil. And this is a biodegradable pot. It's made out of pressed paper and wood fiber and maybe some peat. And it can decompose right in the soil. So you could actually transplant your garlic outside by putting this entire pot right in the soil. And if the soil is nice and moist and the pot is totally covered, it will decompose. If you look at this soil, you can see that it's very light and fluffy. That's because it has lots of compost in it. So it's full of nutrients, and it's going to have lots of air spaces for the plant's roots to grow. And it also has these little white flecks in there, little white dots. Do you know what those are? Those are called perlite or vermiculite, and they're puffed, sort of like a puffed up popcorn kind of sand. And those create lots of air spaces for the roots to grow and for the water to get to the plant's roots. So we have our nice potting soil, and we're going to take our trowel and fill up our pot. Now we have to moisten the soil. So get a little bit of water, and we're going to pour some water right in this pot, and we're going to stir it around to make the soil nice and moist so we can get started with some nice moist soil. We don't want it too wet and we don't want it too dry, so just go a little bit at a time. I think I've made mine a little bit too wet, so I'm going to add some dry soil. You could also pour some water right into your bag of soil and mix your soil in there. You can stir your soil around with your trowel too. So when your soil feels nice and moist but it's not dripping water, then you've got the right amount of moisture in there to get started. And now we're ready to plant some garlic. So pick 3 garlics that you'd like to plant. I think I'm going to pick a big one, a medium one, and a smaller one, and see what the difference is. We're going to plant them about 2 inches deep, and that's about the length of your thumb. So you can make 3 holes for your garlic. Okay, and then we're going to push the garlic cloves down in there, and then we're going to cover them with about 1/2 inch of soil, so they're totally covered. I'm going to get some more soil out of my bag. Okay, now my garlic cloves are all covered, and let's talk for a minute about what plants need to grow. So we've already given our garlic the soil, and the soil carries the nutrients to the plants. So that's like the plant food for the plants. So this soil is full of compost, and it has nutrients. It has those major nutrients that plants really need, which are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So we've got the plant food in the soil, and the soil also provides a structure, a place for the roots to actually dig in and grow. And we're going to give the plant some water. So you can take your mister and you can mist the top of your plant. We have to keep this garlic really moist while it's sprouting. Every day you can check it and make sure that it feels moist, and if it doesn't feel moist, then give it a misting. If it already feels really moist, then you don't need to mist it. And what does the water do for the plants? Well, the water carries the nutrients to the roots. The nutrients are floating around in the water, and then the plant roots can suck up the nutrients from the water. What else does our plant need? Does it just need soil and water? It also needs some sunlight, right? So we can put our garlic into a sunny window, and the sun allows the plant to photosynthesize, right? So photosynthesis is when the plant makes its own sugar so it can grow and get bigger. And the plant also needs air, and there's plenty of air in your house, right? But it uses the carbon dioxide in the air. It's going to take the carbon dioxide and the water that we just gave it and the sunlight from the sunny window, and it's going to turn that into sugar and starch and oxygen for us to breathe. And then there's one more thing that this plant needs, which is a little bit of warmth. If we put it in a freezing cold area, this little garlic is not going to sprout. So we want this garlic to sprout. So we can put it in a warm area to make sure that it sprouts right away. And we're also going to place it on some kind of little plate or container cover or something to catch the extra water that drips out when we're watering it. And then we're going to add a tag. So get your marker and your tag and write garlic and the date. Great! Now you can go and put this on your sunny windowsill and watch and wait to see when the little green sprouts come up. We're also going to do a fun experiment and take 1 clove, put a teeny tiny bit of water in a little dish, just a little teeny bit, and then we're going to sit our clove in this water so that the root side is down, and just kind of prop it up in there so that the root is touching the water, oops, and the top is poking out. And then this way we can watch what's going on inside your pot where you can't see what's going on. You can watch what's going on right in this little dish. You could put this in a sunny window too. You could put 2 cloves in there if you'd like to. So what should we do with all the rest of these garlic cloves? Well, we can eat them. They'll be delicious in lots of different kinds of foods. Or we could plant some more. You can make a recycled container out of lots of different kinds of containers. This is a milk carton, and this is an easy one to use because you can easily cut the top off, and then you can poke some holes in the bottom to let extra water out, and I even poked some holes along the edges to let some extra water out. There we go, I planted some extras in my recycled container. Now, there's one last fun thing we can do with this garlic, and that is we can plant some outside for an experiment. Do you have a spot in your yard where you could stick some garlic cloves in to see if they'll grow next year in the spring? Garlic is a great thing to grow outside because the deer and the rabbits and the squirrels do not like to eat garlic. Garlic is in the onion family, and the animals don't really like the onion family very much. So if you have a spot where you get lots of sun, you can plant some garlic. So let's go outside and give it a try. Before we go, I'm going to make my tag and bring it with me so that we can stick a tag right in the ground and find the garlic next spring. I'll put the date on it too. So here we are out in the garden, and I think I found a good spot where we can stick some garlic in. It gets some sun, and the soil looks nice and dark and rich, and I can also put some leaves on top of it. I've got some leaves here. I've got some green onions that are growing from last year, and we've got a space here where we can stick some garlic cloves in. Let's push aside these leaves, and you can see the soil looks pretty nice and dark. And we're going to loosen it up with our trowel because it's really hard. It's got lots of tree roots in here, I think. This will be an experiment to see if it comes up in the spring. So we'll do the same thing as before. We'll make some holes about 2 inches deep, and we're going to stick our cloves down in there. Stick them right down in there, with the root side down and the pointy side facing up. And then we're going to cover them over with the soil so we can't see the tops anymore. Like that. And then what we do is you can find some leaves, and I have a bunch of leaves here. So we're going to cover them with some leaves, and it's like a little blanket for them so that they don't get too cold during the winter. And we'll stick our garlic tag right in there, like that. And then in the spring, we'll come back and we'll see if we can see any little green shoots coming up. There we go. Now we've planted some garlic. And I'm so excited to see your pictures on Padlet that you post of your garlic planting. We'll see you next time. Bye.